Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video for Honeybee Stamps. Today we are going to be using the Let's Get Crafty stamps and dies, and then also the Crafty sentiments, and then the dies that match that. Before we get too far into this, I just wanted to let you know there is a summer savings sale going on over at Honeybee through August 8th at 11:59 p.m. and that gives you 15% off site-wide. So if you love these stamps or you have some other things on your Honeybee list, it's a good time to go pick them up because you get 15% off your entire order, which is pretty amazing. So here, I just... what crafty person would not love this set? I mean, honestly. It's got paints and paintbrushes and Copics and scissors and rulers and like all of our tools of the trade, man. And so I just thought it was super fun. I couldn't wait to use it. And I'm just going to be doing a simple, like, stamp die, like something you'd send to a crafty friend that maybe only they would understand all of these little craft things. So if I actually get around to mailing this, I do have a crafty friend that I have not seen in quite some time in mind to send this to. But whether or not it gets there, you know, I mean, you know me. I don't mail a lot of stuff. So originally, I had planned to just kind of stamp out all of my items on one piece of cardstock. I could not do that and make sure that I had enough room to die cut all of them. So I decided that I was just going to do two different pieces parts. There is a lot of Copics on my card, but if you watch my channel or you watch my videos for other people's channels, you know that I use a lot of Copics, so it makes sense for me. There is a lot of gray or gray tones in this card, just because of the items that I am coloring, but I'm mixing that up with a little bit of rainbow in the palettes, in the watercolor, and in the, actual palette, which is really the base for my sentiment. And then also the pieces parts in the background, trying to get little pops of color here and there to kind of tie everything in together. But there is a lot of neutral tones, which is okay. No big deal. So pretty much we're just going to be doing a whole lot of color, a whole lot of coloring. For the majority of the things, I didn't really have a light source that I was coloring. I kind of did center highlighting, and that's what you see me here doing on the Copic markers. You're still going to add shading where 2 points meet or where one object lays on top of the other. So in these cases, these two closed alcohol markers, one is on top of the other, so the one underneath obviously would have a shadow because a piece of it is being blocked. So yeah, life-wise, have we really had anything going on? We've been on vacation this week. We had pretty good weather, so I'm grateful for that. We probably have not been in the pool as much as I would have liked. But, it's it says that the water's 85. But then when you put your toe in it, it doesn't feel like the water's 85. And we did have some cooler days at the beginning of our vacation, but at least it wasn't rainy. So it was like in the 70s, but at least not raining. So I'll be grateful for that. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything. We talked a little bit about birthdays, and for once I'm not making a birthday card, so that's something. Yeah, I don't really think that we've been doing too much. I've been watching a lot of murder mysteries. So yeah, I know that sounds a little strange, unless you're me. So at work, I told you we've had a gigantic influx of people because we've brought on a new city. And one of the new people who I actually knew before, I don't know, maybe you guys run into this, maybe you don't, where like if you work in a specific field long enough, you tend to meet people who are in that field even when you don't work for the same places. Now, for a lot of other people, that's private companies. But for me, it's not. It's government. It's, public jobs. But so, anywho, with all of the regionalization that's been going on in the county that I work, which if you don't know what that is, basically the long and short of it is somebody in this county decided that it would be more cost effective and more efficient if there were less places that 911 calls came into, and those places dispatched for multiple agencies. I can tell you it is not more cost effective, nor is it more efficient. As somebody who does the job and not somebody who just sits behind a table and makes arbitrary decisions about other people's jobs. It's neither of those things. But nonetheless, there's a gigantic push for it, and there has been for about the last... When did I first lose my job? In 20... I think they started this in 2013. So in 2013, the place that I had worked for 10 years, they decided that they were going to get on the regionalization bandwagon. And so then we were basically told that we would have the opportunity to apply at the new place, but we would be getting none of our things. We would be getting none of our seniority. We would be getting none of our pay. We would be getting none of our vacation, compensatory time, nothing. You would get nothing. You'd start all over again. And so for me, I had 10 years in, which was still a considerable amount, but there were a lot of women that I worked with who had been there for 18 years, 20 years, and now you're going to tell them that they have to start back over with nothing. And it was awful and horrible, and we were all very angry. But it didn't just happen to us. It happened to a lot of people, and it's still happening in this particular county. So we all took the test for the new place, and they did offer me the job. I scored number 2 on the test. They offered me the job, but they offered me nothing. Like I said, no vacation, no nothing. And so the state at the time was offering less pay, but they did your vacation time based on your time spent in your retirement fund. So I could at least get my vacation back and then earn up the amount of money that I was making. And so I chose to do that. And then, well, because at the time I was married to my ex-husband, he and I chose to do that. And then I was probably there for about 9 months before my old police department that I had worked at for 10 years, that just literally robbed my job out from underneath me, called me and said, we're going to keep 2 people full-time here. Will you come back and do case management in the detective bureau? And so we made the decision that with having a young child, Peanut was much younger at the time, and because in public service you have to work weekends, holidays, all that jazz, it was a much better schedule. And so I went back and did that job. And I did that job up until last year, when I knew I always wanted to go back to dispatching. And I had always missed dispatching. Consequently, while I was doing that job, I always had like a part-time job dispatching somewhere. So I had a part-time job dispatching for a regional center, and then I had a part-time job dispatching in-house for another department. Then I had a part-time job teaching dispatching, 911 telecommunications. You guys have been here for all of that, through all of that, because I started my YouTube channel, I think, right after I went back to clerking, I think is when I finally started it. And so you meet a ton of people. And when I worked part-time at one of the regional centers, I met this woman named Erin, who also had the same thing. Now, mind you, unless you are a home city, all of us have lived through this. All of us has lost our jobs. All of us have lost our seniority. All of us have lost pretty much everything that we worked for, for whatever X amount of time. And so Erin also was in the same boat as I was, and we worked together at the regional center. I was part-time, she was full-time, and she's super funny, and we always got along really, really well. Well, then there was another city that was still in-house, and their chief had basically come out and said, we'll never regionalize. Like, I will never do that to these people. Well, you know, chiefs don't last forever, and eventually he retired. And then that is the new city that the regional center I now work for brought on. And so Erin, God love her, so she worked in-house, they regionalized, and then she went to this regional center. She left the regional center because she found another place that was in-house that said, oh, we'll never regionalize. And then she lost her job again to regionalization and is now back at a regional center. But nonetheless, she's got, I think she said she's got like 4 years left. She's just going to ride it out. The only thing I will say for the regional center that I do work for now is that they bring you in on what they call a lateral transfer. So you don't get nothing. You don't have seniority, but you don't get nothing. You still can get your vacation time that you've earned, rate of pay, things like that. So there is that. They have that going for them. But this is 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. This is almost 10 years later. Like what, 7 years later from when regionalization was first a thing and they wouldn't offer us anything or give us anything. But anywho, how we got on the topic of this very long, convoluted story is, in our conversation, Erin and I were talking about like hobbies that we like to do. Erin is a scrapbooker, which I started as a scrapbooker. If you remember way back 100 years ago to when I first started doing YouTube videos and having story time, I did start as a scrapbooker. And I did that for years. I did that all through high school. And then into college. Like I made my gifts for my friends from college were scrapbooks that I had made them. I didn't make myself one, of course. I just made them for them and gave them away. Because why would I make something for myself that I would keep? I'm the same with cross stitches. I make them, I give them away to other people, and I never see them again. But so when we were talking, just like scrapbooks and things like that, she said that she hadn't really done anything, and I asked her if she stamped, and she said no, but she had a friend who stamped, and she didn't really know that much about it, and now, like, I totally feel the need to full-on convert her to stamping, because, obviously, it's super fun. I mean, who wouldn't want to do it? And the other thing that we have in common is watching murder documentaries. Like, serial killer documentaries, people who have been murdered, they like the different cases that are out there, and just, I watch them all the time. So traditionally, when I would make a card, I would usually listen to my Pandora, and I have it on shuffle, and I have a pretty eclectic music. Excuse me, I have the hiccups, I guess. Pretty eclectic music taste. And that's just what I would listen to. Well, since we started doing the furniture, I'm going to say this on a YouTube video. I'm going to say this on a YouTube video, and then he is going to play this back 100,000 times every single time we get into an argument. I already regret it, and I haven't even done it yet. I already have buyer's remorse. So Eric wanted to put a TV in the garage. And I was like, no, because then we won't talk to each other and you'll just want to watch TV. And he was like, no, I drive around all day and I listen to a radio all day, and I don't want to listen to a radio all day when I come home from work. I would like to listen to something else. So eventually compromise was made, and the smaller television that we already owned was mounted in the garage with the caveat that the TV will not be on when both of us are out there working. Right? Seems fair. Since we have been doing the furniture more, and I have been out in the garage more, and I listen to the radio when I'm out there, I do find myself not wanting to necessarily listen to the same things when I am card making. And so I have found myself bringing up Hulu or whatever to listen to the murder documentaries, which means that he was right and that it can be a little bit much listening to the same things all the time. This is totally going to come back, y'all. I'm going to be sitting at dinner tonight after this video goes up, and he's just going to be playing it on a loop. Ugh, I've made such a terrible marital error. Anywho, so I do find myself like wanting to listen to something different. And I've always read books about forensics and like different cases and stuff like that. I just think they're super fascinating. And then there's another girl at work, Haley, who also listens to the murder documentaries. And so basically we just all sit around talking about the murder documentaries that we watch when we have downtime at work. So we're just all talking about the murdered people. And some of them are, well, I mean, all of them are appalling. Like, let's be real. We're not trying to, homicide, murder is horrific act in and of itself. But some of them are really like, you can't even understand how somebody got there. Back to the card super quick. So all of the coloring is done. Here I'm just going in. First I'm going in with a silver gel pen. This comes in a metallic pack with silver, gold, and like a bronze or a copper color. I love these things. They're super helpful, especially if you're trying to give something a metallic look. So I used that on the, what are they called? Frenulas? I think that's it. Somebody fact checked me. I think it's a frenula on the paintbrush. And then I used it on the little watercolor case. I'm using it on the watercolor tubes. And then on the scissors. I'm then going back in with a white gel pen just to add a highlight to some of my other things like the paint, the scissor handles, the Copic markers where light would be reflective off of those things. They're not metallic, so I don't want to use the metallic pen, but they are shiny, hard plastic, so they do have a reflection. So I'm going back in and adding all of those, and then I'm going to do all of my die cutting. Honeybee started doing this thing 6 months ago, maybe longer than that, where your dies come already cut apart, and it is the cat's pajamas. Like, I don't have to spend time cutting all of my pieces parts, worrying about where those little metal pieces fly off to. I don't have to do any of that because they're already cut apart, and I think it is fantastic. So I'm just lining all of these up with where they go. I'm going to cut them out. You can see over on the left-hand side where I have kind of laid things out how I want them. For the sentiment, I knew I wanted to use the die, so I cut out the word Crafty in white and then the shadow portion of it in black. And then for the sentiment, I'm going to do the rest of the sentiment, I should say. I'm going to do some heat embossing, and it's just going to say, hey there, Crafty chick, because I think that was cute. It totally reminds me of Jen Shirkus, and if you don't know who Jen Shirkus is, you should look her up because she's amazing. But there's so many fun, sentiments in here. We stick together, pretty sure it's all that glue, or Crafty friend, you're the best, Crafty mail, let's get crafty. My favorite one, honestly, is you have the ability, because Honeybee is smart, and it lets you like kind of build your own sentiments. They have one that you can build that says, I sweat glitter. And I just think it's so fun. Like, isn't that just the funnest thing? I would totally sweat glitter if that was an option. Like, just glisten it. Like a fine stardust color, I think, would be my color of sweat. But anywho, so now I'm just going to kind of build this back, build these things together. I chose to I'm dropping Copics off my marker while I'm talking to y'all. Dropping Copics off my marker. Yes, I said that. Off my desk. Because they're just kind of piled up here after my card making. But I'm dropping them off my desk. Words are important. But here, doing building the card, I had laid everything out. I took a picture of it so that I would know how I wanted it to look. That's what you see my phone over here. So that when I'm building it, I know, but I am adhering some of them down flat and then popping some of them up on foam tape. You can see my sentiment in the top right here that I've already put foam tape on. And you have to be aware of where your sentiment's going to be if you're going to prop up some things on foam and other things not on foam, that you don't put your sentiment where there's something that has foam. Otherwise, it's not going to lay level. So that palette is kind of my empty space for where I'm going to put my sentiment that I know I'm going to pop up on foam. So for the watercolor, I knew that it had to be flat. And then the lid for the Copic over here on the left, I knew that had to be flat. Really just those kind of two things, paid attention to them. Everything else, if I was putting something on top of it, I pretty much laid it flat. And then if it was the thing that was on top, I popped it up on foam just for some different dimension. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much just building this bad boy up, putting the sentiment on there. And that's pretty much my whole card. So just to remind you, in case you've changed your mind about purchasing something, that sale is this weekend. It is through August 8th at 11:59 p.m. I don't believe there's a code. I think you just takes it off your entire order automatically when you check out. But if you have some things on your wish list, or you super love these ones just like I do, then I would encourage you to head over to the Honeybee stamp store and pick up all the things that your little heart desires. They also have things that are not Honeybee, like they have glue, they have paper, they have ink. So that's a pretty good deal if you plan on picking up some other things as well, like your perishable items. Of course I added some glitters. I added glitter to the paints, to I think my scissor handles, to the watercolor, like in the little palettes. In fact, I should go over to the Honeybee stamp store right now because I need a new clear glitter pen and see if they carry it. I don't know if they do. But anyway, that's it. So thank you guys so much for joining me. I appreciate hanging out with me and my ramblings, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye.